Looking back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwain McFarland.
All across the fantasy universe, welcome to week 8 of the Fantasy Football Hustle, powered by Pro Football Focus. I'm Brian Drake, flying solo on today's pod. Dwayne had some scheduling conflicts, but we really wanted to get you guys some content before Sunday. So, playing off the article that Dwayne writes, used to write a long time ago called The Late Week Hustle, we figured, how about we give you guys some good info heading here into week 8 of the National Football League. On today's pod, I've got Dwayne's utilization report, and I've picked out some juicy highlights for you. You get all that and my thoughts on the weekend slate. And at the end, we've got Dwayne's players to buy low and sell high. Make sure you're following the show on Twitter at FF Hustle. I'm at Drake Fantasy. Dwayne is, of course, at Dwain McFarland. We want you guys to head over to pff.com. Right now, you can use promo code HUSTLE. Save 25% off any PFF sub. That's going to give you access to all of their rankings, all the locked articles, all the data you can't get anywhere else. That's promo code HUSTLE for 25% off. Inside there, again, there's betting content. There's college football content. There's so much great NFL stuff. I work with Andrew Erickson on weekends at SiriusXM, and he's got great stuff. Ian Hartitz, one of the best guys in the business. Trust me, get over there. Use the promo code HUSTLE. Just tell him your boy Drake sent you. Make sure you're catching me, guys, like I said, every weekend, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, hosting Pro Football Focus, Saturdays 3 to 5, Sundays 7 to 9. Got some great guests this week. Drew Davenport, John Daigle are going to come hang out with me. What do you say we get into this and open it only the way we know how? There we go. Let's get things going here. It's a little different here doing it solo without Dwayne. One of the most debated topics right now in fantasy football is what to do with guys like Allen Robinson and Tyler Lockett. They're basically unplayable, even in PPR leagues. Robinson, last year's wide receiver 9, is currently wide receiver 59, thanks to brutal quarterback play from Justin Fields. He was a third-round pick and somehow hasn't scored 9 points in a game this year. 9! I know because I've taken him in several leagues, and trust me, I'm trying to trade this guy. The Bears' pace of play is abysmal. Currently 30th in the league. Matt Nagy doesn't know how to use Fields, and it's killing A-Rob. Worse yet, Robinson seems to have fallen behind Darnell Mooney, his Fields' favorite target. Last week was particularly brutal. Robinson, in what should have been an ideal game script, only saw 13% of the Bears' targets, and a particularly damning stat to me, 13% of the third and fourth down targets. That stinks. So what do we do for fantasy? We know the situation sucks. But here's what we do. You have to hold him for another week to see if the Bears might sell A-Rob at the trade deadline, which is Tuesday night. He's on the final year of his contract. He would be an ideal target for teams like New Orleans, New England, heck, Kansas City could use him. So we'll see what happens. I'm not saying start him. Hell no. I'm never going to tell you that this week. Not with that quarterback play. Keep his ass on your bench. Let's see what he can do if he finds a new home. He's still very talented. He didn't forget how to play wide receiver all of a sudden. I doubt Nagy goes back to Andy Dalton. So if we get another dud this week, I'm fine dropping him. He can't throw himself the football. As for Tyler Lockett, we can point to Russell Wilson's injury, but he's been shaky well before that. Weeks 1 and 2, he torched everyone with 26 and 31 fantasy points. Since those monster days, though, he hasn't topped 60 yards in a single game. Take out week 5, he hasn't bested 35 yards. There's always hope when Russ comes back under center, but Pete Carroll is like the ultimate dinosaur. Here's a team who runs, on average, the fewest plays per game in the league. Dwayne had a great tweet about this. He said the Bills are on pace to run 260 more plays on offense than the Seahawks, excluding overtime. The NFL average is 63 plays per game. So in other words, the Bills could play the equivalent of 4 more games than the Seahawks on offense. That's crazy. That's, if you're out there, maybe you can flip Tyler Lockett for, somebody on the Bills. Maybe you can get Manny Sanders, but I know I've been trying to peddle him myself. So I'm in the camp of trying to sell Lockett. I know it might be hard with his recent craptastic showings, but you can always spin the fact, hey, Russ is coming back soon. He's going to be great again. If you don't move him, though, it's hard to find a spot for him in your lineup. This weekend, he plays a Jags team, giving up the second most passing yards per attempt. Conversely, they've also seen the second fewest passes attempted against them because they're kind of a run funnel. I can see Carroll playing some like 1950s Army-Navy football and keeping the ball out of the air. So good luck with those two guys. Let me throw a few DFS tight end darts at you. First and foremost, you have to play TJ Hawkinson against the Eagles this week. Philly just gave up 18 PPR points to Foster Moreau, people. Foster Moreau. This defense is awful. Eagles linebacker Davion Taylor shouldn't be on the field. The Raiders targeted him every single time he was in coverage. I expect the Lions, who don't exactly have the best outside skill weapons, to target this secondary early and often. I get he's the second highest priced tight end this week on DK, but he's going to produce. I can easily see 2 touchdowns. To be honest, I think the Lions are going to win the straight up money line, but we'll get to that later. If you want to save a few bucks, how about Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth? He's 3,600 on DK. I like this kid in season long also going forward. Just today, Eric Ebron was added to the injury report and was limited. Here's what I like about Freiermuth is he can do it all, and he's exactly what Pittsburgh needs to replace the void left by Juju Smith-Schuster. The Steelers run bye last week, but if you look back to week 6, he ran more routes than Ebron, saw more targets, and he gets open in that short to intermediate area that Juju used to occupy. More importantly, with Ben's rag arm, it's an area he can easily access. If you're looking for a little juice, give this kid a chance. Let me refresh a little bit here, folks. Usually I get to drink the beer while Dwayne's talking on the pod, but if it's just solo here, the thing's getting warm. What are you going to do? Let's talk about Carson Wentz. What a year this kid's having. Everyone thought he was dead. He's broken. He shouldn't be in the league. Well, Wentz is reborn with Indy. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in 4 straight weeks. Wentz's best 2 years in Philly were because it was 2017 and 2018, and he connected with Alshon Jeffrey early and often. Now, you know who his new best friend is? Michael Pittman. So when injuries derailed Jeffrey, it also took down Wentz. Without his big, wide catch radius wide receiver, Wentz struggled, and then he was run out of town. Now he's clicking with Pittman, who in week 7 ran a route on 97% of Wentz's dropbacks. His ADOT is steadily rising also. This last week, he saw it top out at 22.5. Now, Dwayne still wants to see some utilization stats rise before he sees him as anything more than a wide receiver 3. I'm a little higher on him than he is. And with so many injuries in the Colts wide receiver group, I think bigger days are ahead. If you watch that primetime game they just had, this kid's a future star, and the time to buy on him is now. I see a lot of you folks out there, you're getting excited about the Texans running back situation. Stop. Just stop already. Don't do this to yourself. This team stinks. Now, while I do like Tyrod Taylor, and he's due back this week, and I'm totally cool with playing him in DFS or a super flex league, he's basically lowercase Jalen Hurts. The running backs are a whole different story. Here's another team who runs very few plays per game. Mark Ingram handled 54% of the rushing attempts to this point. Even with more than half the team's carries, he was PPR running back 51. Houston ranks dead last in explosive rushes per game, which are runs over 10 yards. David Johnson, I guess, is the next man up here. But are we really going to get on board with a soon-to-be 30-year-old running back who hasn't topped 25 yards rushing in a game yet? Come on, people. What are we doing here? He's the type of player you pray your opponent starts against you. Here's another DFS play for you. Chris Godwin of the Bucks. Tampa is without AB this week and probably longer. Mike Evans is locked down by Marshawn Lattimore, who, if you haven't seen the stats on them, they're crazy. In 8 prior contests, he's only allowed Evans 10 catches. He had a couple of games with goose eggs out there. So Brady's going to pepper Godwin all day long. I anticipate well over 30% target share for Godwin, who last week, also without Brown, saw 29% of Brady's throws. Love him this week. Love him. The Jets situation is typically one to shy away from. But let's take a look at what new QB Mike White did in relief of my favorite Disney princess, Zach Wilson. He targeted the hell out of the running backs. Michael Carter saw 21% of the team targets, and Ty Johnson saw 18%. Both finished as top 20 PPR backs in week 7. All right, let's take a breath. I'm not telling you guys to go out and start these scrubs, but if you're in like a super desperate PPR league, it's last call at the bar and you're going to prison for life in the morning, that kind of desperate, I think you can play Carter this week and he'll get you 10 points. How about my Eagles? All right, let's talk about the Birds. They got a new starting running back on Sunday as Miles Sanders was lost last week to an ankle sprain. The injury should only keep him out a week or two. It's not one of the high ankle sprains. I know it looked bad when they carted him off the field, but he should be back probably in 2 weeks, they're saying. In his place, the team's going to look to rookie Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, and they'll likely elevate off the practice squad journeyman Jordan Howard to tote the rock. Now, the Eagles don't run the ball anyway, so this is kind of a moot point. I do think Boston Scott will be very active, and he's the much cheaper guy to get on the waiver wire, and who knows, he still might be available in some leagues by the time you're listening to this. In my opinion, he's going to see more carries than Gainwell. Where Kenny Gainwell can separate himself, though, is in passing situations, goal line, 2-minute drill, all that fun stuff Dwayne likes to talk about. Per the utilization report, Gainwell increased his snaps from 23% to 51% without Sanders, but only handled 18% of the rushing attempts. Now, with Philly playing Detroit, I think both guys can get you 10 PPR points. Honestly, like I said, I think Detroit wins this game straight up. Detroit is hungrier. They play better. They're better coached. So, hey, if it gets the Eagles the number 1 overall pick, I'm cool with it. All right. Finally, here's some of Dwayne's buy low and sell high candidates. I ripped them straight from his PFF.com article. Remember, go over there, use promo code HUSTLE. It's going to save you 25%. All right, so he's saying sell high on Noah Fant because he's likely going to see a dip in routes when Alberto returns, which could happen this week. Now, I'd like to remind you guys, Jerry Jeudy's also coming back this week, so Fant could remain kind of a low-end, tight end 1 option, but I could see more balls going elsewhere after his big game a few weeks ago. Corey Davis, another guy to sell high on. Now, his utilization, Dwayne says, is dwindling in this receiver by committee situation in just a terrible offense. He needs touchdowns to stay any sort of relevant. This is the time to sell him after 2 top 20 finishes in the last 3 weeks. How about buying low? This was me all day today, by the way, folks, trying to buy Calvin Ridley. He continues to post elite utilization metrics in an offense that's improving. Again, team stinks, defense stinks. They're going to throw a ton. Now, Ridley's seen double-digit targets every week since week 2. Go find the owner who's a little disgruntled. Hell, maybe you can package Tyler Lockett or Allen Robinson to him. Good luck. T. Higgins. Now, this is a guy who has 20, 22, and 43% target share since he returned from a shoulder injury. The Bengals offense, we know of watching these games the last few weeks, their volume's picking up. Now's the time to buy on an upside wide receiver 3 who currently is outside the top 50 at wide receiver. Everyone's chasing this, chasing the chase hype. You see what I did there? Higgins is easy to overlook. Go make an offer for him. How about Darren Waller? Missed week 7 with the ankle injury. Now he's on bye. This is a great time to buy. I'm a big fan of what I call buying on the buy. Last week you could have went out and tried to buy James Robinson. This week, the opportunity is on Darren Waller. The owner in your league could be struggling. He could need to fill his roster with a running back or a wide receiver. Go pounce. See if you can pick up Darren Waller. Folks, I hope you appreciated this little abbreviated version of the Fantasy Football Hustle. Sorry we couldn't give you the whole big show, but again, head over to pff.com, use promo code HUSTLE, and we'll be back next week. And listen for the Chris Collinsworth podcast, because rumor has it our boy Dwayne was just a guest on there, and it's going to drop very, very soon. So be sure to check that out. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. If you like it, leave a comment, like the podcast, make sure you subscribe, iTunes, leave a good review for us. Let us know that the hustle's helping you out here. And again, find us on Twitter. I'm at Drake Fantasy. Dwayne is at Dwain McFarland. The show is at FF Hustle. And with that, I remind you folks to never get out hustled. We'll see you next week, guys. Take care.